What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 467 here today of AskGSM for Wednesday, November 9, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So let's get right into it. We got a lot of questions here today, a lot of great ones too. Starting with a lot of YouTube questions specifically. Central Man Network from YouTube, their first question was, Survivor Series 2022 is in a couple of weeks' time. What is your best and worst Survivor Series pay-per-view you've watched as a fan? So the way that I interpret that question is like, of the pay-per-views that I've been a fan for dating back to, I've been a fan since 2008. So of these Survivor Series shows that I've been a fan for and have watched as a fan, what are the best Survivor Series shows and the worst ones? The best ones since 2008 that I've watched as a fan, and I've gone back and watched every Survivor Series via the network and whatnot, and my favorite all-time Survivor Series shows would be the 02. I think 02 is probably my favorite Survivor Series show of all time, and I wasn't even a fan for that one at the time. I wasn't watching back in 02. That probably would be number one. I do want to watch that back on the 20-year anniversary on the 17th, which would be next week. So that's all time. But as far as the ones that I've been a fan for, 08 I did not watch as a fan live. Same with 09. I think I've seen every Survivor Series as a fan dating back to 2010. 2011 and 2019 are probably the best Survivor Series shows that I've been a fan for. And that's not really saying a lot over the course of 15 years. It feels like Survivor Series compared to SummerSlam, Mania, Rumble hasn't really had a lot of great installments in the last 15 years. In recent years, it's been really focused on the brand supremacy bullshit, which no one really gave a fuck about. Thankfully, it does not look like they're doing that this year. But 2011 was great. 2011 was at MSG. They did Morrison and Ziggler, United States Championship. Ryder came out afterward, got a great reaction. The Rock was back in the ring that night alongside John Cena against Awesome Truth. The match itself wasn't like amazing or anything, but it was a fun spectacle seeing Cena and Rock team up. The Survivor Series elimination matches I remember being good. They did. I think Wade Barrett was the sole survivor for one of them, I think. Ziggler was in maybe that same match as well. I think they did maybe two. I remember one, and it featured people from both brands. I remember that one being good. Beth and Eve, I remember being a good match for the Divas Championship, and a few other things as well. Mark Henry and Big Show, I think, had a pretty good match for the World Heavyweight title. So I love that show. I love the energy around that show. I enjoyed the build-up. That's probably my favorite Survivor Series show of all time. And I was at Survivor Series last year. I thought Survivor Series last year was a solid show, but kind of uneventful because people were expecting The Rock for his 25-year anniversary. He wasn't there. It was still a good show, and I'll be there this year as well. Hopefully this year tops all the ones that I've watched as a fan so far, and that becomes my favorite. But 2011 is probably my favorite as a fan in the last 15 years as far as Survivor Series goes. And then in a close second would probably be 2019. That was back when they were still doing the brand supremacy stuff, obviously. But the 2019 installment, remember, featured NXT as well. And the NXT involvement on that show really made it better. The women's matches were great. The elimination matches were great for the men and the women. They had a great triple threat with Nakamura, Roddy, and AJ, the Battle of the Mid-Card Champions. Adam Cole and Pete Dunne for the NXT Championship stole the show. Fantastic match. Brock and Ray even was a really fun WWE title match. The Universal title match was Bray and Daniel Bryan. And that was a solid match, not a great match, not on the level of their Royal Rumble 2014 encounter. But it was The Fiend and not Bray Wyatt. But it was still good. And I think the lowest point on the show was the women's main event, which was good but not great, between Becky Bayley and Baszler. That was all right. But that was a great show, too, in Chicago. As far as worst Survivor Series shows, since I started watching 15 years ago, a lot come to mind. The top two, though, number one has got to be fucking Survivor Series 2013. If you have followed me or if you have known me for any stretch of time, you would know I have an absolute hatred for that show. And the funny thing about that show, and I've told this story before, was that show emanated from Boston. At that point, I was in school, not in Boston, but near Boston. So I'm thinking, when it was announced for Boston, and I had the Boston accent there for a second, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can go. I'll be in the area. It would be cool. I've never been to a WWE pay-per-view before at that point. Hadn't been to a lot of WWE shows in general, just live Raws and house shows and stuff like that. A SmackDown taping, never a pay-per-view. Never a Survivor Series either, obviously. So I was expecting and hoping to go. The pay-per-view fell on a weekend where I wasn't at school. I actually went home for Thanksgiving a couple days, like 2 days earlier. So I'm thinking, okay, damn, I missed my chance. Whatever, I'll just watch it at home. Didn't get a chance to go to that show live, and I'm glad I did not. I am so glad my first fucking pay-per-view was not Survivor Series 2013. The only good thing about that show, I mean, I guess two things. The Punk and Bryan versus Wyatt family match was good. The opening elimination match was great, with The Shield reigning supreme, Roman Reigns sole survivor. That was awesome. Everything else about that show was fucking terrible. Either the matches weren't great, the booking was strange, no one in that crowd gave a shit. That main event of Randy Orton and Big Show, fucking Big Show for the WWE title was putrid. The show closing with Orton and Cena facing off and holding up their respective world titles was just 2007 all over again. It was a really, really bad show. So I will never forget that. That is easily the worst Survivor Series show in the last 14, 15 years. And there's been some less than stellar ones like, 2014. I didn't say 2014 as far as the best, because 2014 had that amazing main event, one of my favorite Survivor Series matches of all time. Team Cena, Team Authority. Fantastic match, great story, great storytelling, suspense, drama, everything. The rest of that show wasn't really that great, which is why I didn't, include that among the best Survivor Series shows since 2008. That wasn't an awful show. The main event really made the show, but it doesn't fall in either category. 2015 also sucked. That comes in a close second. 2015, I remember being excited for the show because they were having the finals, the semifinals and the finals for the then vacant WWE title tournament. That Rollins had to vacate the championship, and they had Roman and Ambrose going to the finals. Would there be a swerve? Would Ambrose turn heel? Would Roman turn heel? And we had none of that. Instead, Sheamus cashed in. At that point, no one gave a fuck about Sheamus. He had been losing a lot. No one gave a shit about him. He was involved in an elimination match earlier in the show that was announced that fucking day. They put no effort in the elimination matches that year. I think they did Charlotte and Paige too. It was fine. No one really cared. I don't really remember what else was even on that show. No one gave a fuck on that show. And the Roman and Ambrose main event was very disappointing. Not a good show at all. 2016 had its moments. And all the other brand supremacy shows, honestly, have had some really good matches, so I can't say they were awful. But the worst one since 2008 was easily 2013, and 2015 comes close. Two of the worst endings in recent Survivor Series history. Their second question, thoughts on the 24/7 championship being retired? It's about fucking time. My only criticism of the my biggest criticism as far as Triple H goes with the 24/7 championship is that he didn't do it sooner. The man's been in power now for 3-4 months as far as being in charge of creative, and only on Monday did they take the steps towards retiring the title. Now, we don't know that for a fact. I haven't checked the roster page. I feel like if I don't know how people find out about this shit as far as, this person's off the roster, this changed, that's gone, blah, blah, blah. People fucking follow that shit like hawks. I feel like if something changed on the roster page where the championship was taken off the WWE Champions page or whatever, then we would have known about it by now. So until it is, I'm thinking it's done. I don't know why they would have done what they did if it wasn't thrown in the trash and gone for good. I mean, she missed the trash when Nikki Cross won it and attempted to throw it in the trash. It actually fell, beside the trash, but regardless, the point still stood. The championship is hopefully dead. There's I don't want to say a big chance, but there is still always a chance someone picks it up out of the trash next week. And R-Truth, thankfully, is not around right now. I would worry, maybe Truth picks it back up and he becomes champion again. If fucking Dana Brooke picks the title out of the trash and acted as if nothing happened, then I don't even know what to say. I have faith that they filmed that segment on purpose because they are intending to get rid of the title. It serves no fucking purpose. It has not been on Raw in months. No one gives a shit about it. It's an awful comedy title, quote-unquote comedy. Hasn't been funny in 3 years. It was when it first started, and they ran that shit into the ground after the Truth and Maverick feud, first ended 3 years ago. And that was it. So I'm glad they're finally retiring it. People talking, specifically Dana Brooke on fucking Twitter, I laugh. She seems like a nice person. She's not, amazing in the ring or anything. I always give Dana Brooke shit, but It's funny hearing her do interviews and seeing her on Twitter being so proud of being the 24/7 champion. Listen, it's probably the only championship she will ever hold in this company. She may reunite with Emma. I've seen other people say this. Maybe she reunites with Emma and they win the tag team titles. That would be great. Dana Brooke is fucking abysmal. She should never hold a singles championship in this company again. That mistake of a title was the only real excuse she had for holding a championship in this company. And again, she seems like a really nice individual. But the fact that she was acting as if she elevated the championship and she was so offended when it got thrown in the trash, give me a fucking break. It's been on Main Event in awful matches between her and Kiana James, who also really isn't that good from NXT. At least Kiana James has the excuse of being inexperienced. Dana Brooke has now been around now for 7 or 8 years on the fucking main roster, which is wild to me. But the title was a joke. They had to get rid of it. That would have always been a blemish in the Triple H era of WWE until that was done. It finally was. I have spent more time talking about this than WWE has put in effort in making it mean something, so we'll move on. Billy from YouTube, his question was, what's going on with Kevin Owens? Where is he? Have you heard anything? Why is he not being not being utilized, under Triple H right now? I saw under and then utilized. I put the two words together. Why is he not being utilized right now under Triple H? Is it because he's not feeling Usi? I haven't really heard a reason as to why Triple H hasn't used Owens lately, aside from the fact that the Zayn stuff really took off, and they're prolonging the Owens story. Now, I would assume the end game, people have pitched this, fantasy booked it. It absolutely fucking has to happen this way. If it doesn't, it's a major, major, major missed opportunity. And I have more faith in Triple H than I would Vince that this is where it's going. That Usos drop the tag titles to Owens and Zayn. I don't care how often Owens and Zayn have been joined to the hip on the main roster, in NXT, Ring of Honor. I don't give a fuck. I completely agree. Their careers will always, cross paths like every once or 2 years. It's just bound to happen. But in this case, it makes sense. Owens has issues with the bloodline. He has unfinished business with the bloodline. He's not beating Roman for that championship. He shouldn't beat Roman for that championship. But he and Zayn have never been tag team champions before in this company. Not in NXT, not on the main roster. They teamed a time or two. At WrestleMania, they've beaten the New Day before, all these other teams on pay-per-view and on Raws and on SmackDowns. They've never actually won tag titles before together. And that's the only championship Owen needs in order to become, I think, a Grand Slam champion, unless I think he's missing the WWE title. But he's never held the tag titles. He's not a Triple Crown champion. Zayn has been Intercontinental champion 3 times, but never tag team champion. It just makes sense. The story should culminate with that. So I think that's where they're headed. They just don't really know what else to do with Owens right now. My thing is, and I'm not going to, praise WWE for if you don't have a plan for Owens, don't bother putting him on the show. That makes sense. And then shit on AEW. No, it goes both ways. If AEW has someone that you don't have a story for, first of all, figure it out. At least with Owens, it's like, okay, I know where they're very likely going with him as far as the Zayn and Owens and Bloodline stuff goes, but you should still have him on the show. He's one of the most over people on the Raw roster. He's great. He really added a lot to the shows when he first became NXT Kevin Owens. He didn't have a set path at that point, and he was still on the show facing Austin Theory, among other people, having great matches. I don't understand why they can't go back to doing that. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm not saying he should be having matches with Theory every single week, but have him just at least doing something. Get him involved for right now in the U.S. Championship picture. Fucking something. I mean, to not even have the guy on the show unless he's sick or hurt. And someone tried to explain, maybe, he is hurt right now, or he, decided to take time off. Maybe he did. Either A, I feel like we would have heard about that by now. And B, he was on NXT like a couple of weeks ago. Granted, not wrestling, but he was on NXT doing the KO show. So unless he requested time off and they needed him for that one segment, then okay. But we haven't heard otherwise, and he's been gone for a month. So they need him back on Raw. I would hope and assume he will be back in time for Survivor Series, and he will be involved in the men's War Games match. I really don't want to see OC and Judgment Day in War Games. That would be a mistake. The feud's been better lately, but they still, I think the War Games match is made for the Bloodline. There's no real reason to do it with anyone else. And Owen should be one of the people on that babyface team. He has been wronged by the Bloodline. He has, like I said, unfinished business with Roman Reigns. It just makes sense. And then Zayn on the other team, they interact, blah, blah, blah. Maybe Owens pinned Zayn to win the match for his team. Who knows? And then we get Roman and... I don't really want to see Roman and KO again, honestly. Not because we've seen it a million times in this company, but because Owens ain't winning. Owens fucking is not beating Roman Reigns, so don't even bother doing it, is my whole thing. But anyway, he should be on Raw on a regular role, regardless of where the Zayn stuff goes. That's not culminating until WrestleMania. You're going to leave Kevin Owens off the show until fucking February? Give me a break. He should be back on the show soon, and I'm hoping it's in time for Survivor Series. Maybe we see him on SmackDown on Friday to set that up, because we had SmackDown stars on Raw on Monday. It would only stand to reason to get Raw stars on SmackDown to set up the Survivor Series stuff and the hopefully men's War Games match involving the Bloodline. Micah does it from YouTube. Their first question was, what do you think of Edge versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 39? It doesn't really pique my interest. I think the most interested I would have been in that match was earlier this year, actually, because Brock was, Brock is Brock. He's not a face. He's not a heel. He's just kind of Brock fucking Lesnar. That was when he was still very much a babyface coming out of WrestleMania, and Edge had just turned heel. So I'm thinking, okay, that would make sense. You do the match at like SummerSlam or whatever. That was a match I was kind of interested in seeing. Edge is back to being a babyface. Brock isn't really a full-blown heel anymore. Could you turn him heel? Sure. But I feel like after what we saw at Crown Jewel, Brock and Bobby, their feud isn't finished yet. They're not wrapping it up at Survivor Series. And I'm honestly kind of glad about that. I think that's a match you can go back to at Mania. Not at Survivor Series, not at the Rumble, not even at Elimination Chamber. You do it at WrestleMania. Will Brock really be off the show for 4 months? Maybe, but maybe he's in the Rumble. He and Bobby's on a tear, eliminating everyone. He wants another shot at the World Championship he never got a rematch for. And then Brock comes out and they eliminate each other. That would be awesome to set up the Mania match. Give it a no-holds-barred, something like that. Steel cage stipulation, whatever. Maybe not a fight pit. We just got one of those, but that would be sick as well. Either way, I think the Mania match, coming off of what we saw on Sunday, is Brock and Bobby. As far as what you do with Edge, I don't know. Do you really wait until Mania to wrap up the Edge and Judgment Day stuff? Maybe. I just feel like that's way too long for a feud I don't really care too much about. So maybe not. But yeah, I'm not really super high on Edge and Brock. I just feel like Edge taking bumps from Brock Lesnar at the age of 50 or whatever probably isn't the best thing for his neck anyway. Their second question. Logan Paul has got to have the respect now after that match with Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. I know he's injured and out for 7 months. But when he returns, it would be summertime, maybe SummerSlam. What do you think of him returning and having a feud with Seth Rollins going into SummerSlam next year? Or do you think he should challenge someone else when he returns? And what do you think of the Intercontinental title being Logan Paul's first title win? Logan Paul is good enough to where if he competes frequently, he just got hurt at Crown Jewel. We don't know what their plans for him would have been if they even knew. I don't know if he would have been back in time for a Survivor Series or the Rumble. He's only had 3 matches this year. Granted, he signed with the company in July, so this part-time schedule he's on, he's made a fair amount of appearances on Raw and SmackDown and shit. He really has. I don't know like if he would be around for every other show or if it's just the big shows like Crown Jewel, Mania, SummerSlam. If he's only around for those shows, I'm not super high on the idea of him winning a championship. But again, he is good enough as proven at Crown Jewel that I think he can have a championship run and make it work. So the Intercontinental title would be interesting. The thing is, with something like that, Gunther is the current champion, and he should be champion for a while. Maybe he loses it at Mania to someone like Sheamus. That'd be perfectly fine with me. At some point, as far as what championship Logan Paul should hold, yeah, something like that would be perfect. I don't know if I would put the fucking world title on him personally, especially if he's not around every single week. We already have that kind of now with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar before him and people like that. Him holding a mid-card title, to me, makes perfect sense. As long as he's around, it's not like he wins it at Mania, which, imagine him beating Gunther, that would be ridiculous. It's not like he wins it at Mania, and then he's gone for 3 months, and then comes back for SummerSlam and loses it there. That would just be a waste. It would have to make sense. It really would. But that would be cool. As far as, what he does when he comes back, he likely won't be back for the Rumble. He definitely won't be back for the Rumble or Mania. The injuries he suffered are serious enough that it's probably going to keep him out until SummerSlam, if not longer. But if he is back for that show, on the 1-year anniversary of his singles debut against The Miz, at this past year's installment, him and Rollins is a match I would want to see. I was thinking as far as, if Logan was healthy and was able to compete at WrestleMania, which he probably obviously can't at this point, if his injuries are legit and as serious as expected, Rollins would be the perfect opponent for him. I know Rollins is a going babyface, but that makes it all the much more enticing. Rollins as the babyface, Logan Paul as the heel, which is what he should be. I know he's won people over with his performances. People are going to boo him every time he's on TV. I mean, whether he comes back and makes this triumphant return or not, people will fucking boo Logan Paul. He's not John Cena, and even Roman Reigns, they eventually turn him heel. Logan Paul is a natural heel. Like John Cena was like, all right, people are booing him, you turn him heel, give it a shot. They didn't, whatever. Cena's not a natural heel, I don't think. He's a natural babyface. Roman Reigns is a natural heel. Logan Paul is a natural heel as well. So I would do that, have him be the heel, Rollins as the face. I feel like that would be a great story, great match. So yeah, I'm all on board with that. Rollins' SummerSlam matches are always next level. I mean, even the match with Dominic Mysterio 2 years ago was really good. The matches with Edge last year was fantastic. The matches with Dolph Ziggler, Dean Ambrose, Brock Lesnar, The Bar 5 years ago. Who did he face this year? Oh, he wasn't even at this year's show, He was, it was supposed to be him and Riddle, and they pulled it off the card. He was on the show, but he didn't wrestle. But he always shines brightest at SummerSlam, and I feel like Rollins and Logan Paul on that show would make a lot of sense. As long as Rollins was the babyface and Logan Paul was the heel. That's what I would do anyway. His third question, do you think Triple H will bring in Will Ospreay for a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble and maybe start a feud with Aussie Open in the OC going into WrestleMania? If not, what surprise returns would you like to see? I did see Will Ospreay's comments that he made the other day about Rollins, and I saw today that he wanted to face Ricochet again because there's so much, they've evolved a lot since they last faced off many, many years ago. First of all, Will Ospreay in the Rumble would be awesome. I am a Will Ospreay fan. I loved his most recent AEW run. I thought he had a lot of bangers over there, even with Orange fucking Cassidy. He was, very good in the ring. But they had a great match back at Forbidden Door. The six-man tag team stuff on Dynamite in the last couple of weeks, or months rather, in the Trios tournament was great. Every match he had in AEW was awesome. Even the Dax Harwood one on TV was great too. Him being in the Rumble would be a lot of fucking fun. I don't think that's possible in the sense that, not that it's not possible. I mean, is it feasible? Maybe. I know I saw the report and commented on it a couple days ago about the whole Forbidden Door thing at the Rumble from earlier this year. And I think either the writers or other people in the company brought it up to Vince. Well, they were asking, if we have Mickie James in the women's one, it would only make sense to have another Forbidden Door entrant in the men's. And the report dictated from WrestleVotes on that interview with Louis Dangor that, they pitched a couple names to Vince. He had probably no idea who any of these people were, and he turned it down. So that tells me that it wasn't someone like Matt Cardona. It was also said it wasn't anyone from AEW. So I don't see that happening anyway. But if it was someone from Impact or New Japan, I think that'd be pretty fucking cool. I think Will Ospreay is a big enough star across wrestling where I think he would get a good enough reaction. Listen, I love people like Josh Alexander and Moose. I think Impact has a lot of great talent. I don't think a majority of people would care enough to see either of those guys in the Rumble, and it would get that noticeable of a reaction, like AJ in 2016. I think someone like an Okada, a Suzuki even, an Ospreay, it would probably have to be a notable name from Japan. Do I expect that to happen? No, but nothing's off the table. And to answer your question, would he come in for a full-on feud with the OC? I think that'd be fucking cool. Aussie Open, I was going to say they're not on Gallows and Anderson's level, but that's not even remotely true because Gallows and Anderson to this point are just a shell of their former selves. Anderson's still pretty good. Gallows is just fucking terrible. I don't think they would sign Aussie Open. I don't even know if Will Ospreay would want to sign with WWE. He's been pretty adamant in the past about not signing with the company. Has that changed with Triple H taking over? I don't think so because I feel like he's done interviews since Triple H took over, and he's also said, hey, I'm still not interested. They're more of sports entertainment. I like more of the wrestling stuff, blah, blah, blah. So I don't think it's any more likely now than it was. I mean, maybe a little more likely, but I still don't see Will Ospreay coming to WWE as far as on a full-time basis. Coming in as a surprise entrant in the Rumble, I think would be pretty fucking cool. Him mixing it up with AJ Styles in the match would be awesome. I don't think enough people would care about the United Empire or Aussie Open for them to come in with him. But Ospreay on his own as a one-off in the Rumble, say they allowed him to use his New Japan music, that would be incredible. I think Okada would blow the roof off the fucking place. I think enough people in that hardcore crowd of wherever they are in Texas for the Rumble next year in a couple months, I think enough people would know who Okada is that they would blow the roof off the place. And same thing with Ospreay or Suzuki or someone like that. Joe M. from YouTube's got a loaded question here. Was WWE's blatant burial of Austin Theory indicative of how they are no longer capable of creating stars as big as the likes of John Cena, Shawn Michaels, etc.? The only defense I've heard of is that he wasn't ready for that position yet. But people once said the same thing about Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, and it seemed to work out well for them. Heck, even CM Punk, who wasn't nearly as big of a star as he is now, won a world title and 2 Money in the Bank contracts within 3 years in WWE. What could Austin Theory possibly be lacking in to not afford him the same opportunities? So I agree with you and I disagree with you. Austin Theory is not John Cena. Austin Theory is not Shawn Michaels. Austin Theory is not Roman Reigns. He is not even CM Punk. They all have something over Theory that he just doesn't have yet. Can Theory be a big star for WWE? Absolutely. I have said that. I honestly feel like I'm probably one of Theory's bigger supporters. There's a lot of people that don't give a fuck about the guy, don't think he's that good. Even if they like him in the ring, his character they don't give a shit about. They think he's generic. I'm of the opposite. I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum. I think he's very good. I think he's very talented. I think he has the charisma and he has that it factor enough to make it as a main event player. Do I look at him and think to myself, he is like the guy, like he unquestionably would be the guy in WWE? Can he be? Yeah, but I don't know. I didn't see John Cena come up in 2002, so it's hard for me to compare it to him. But like Roman Reigns, it was pretty obvious from the get-go, okay, this is going to be the guy. He's probably closest of all the people you compared him to, probably to Randy Orton, but even Orton just had something that Theory does not. Theory is great, don't get me wrong. But I think you're doing him a disservice by comparing him to people like Punk, who is one of the best wrestlers of the last 20 years that WWE has had, and is also on the mic could fucking just destroy Theory on the microphone. Theory is very good and even great in certain areas of his, performer skill set as a superstar, as a wrestler, as a talker, as a media person, whatever. But he just doesn't meet the same level of literally anyone you just mentioned. That being said, the cash-in I thought was awful, and a lot of you guys asked about it. I'll get into whether it's like the worst of all time. I put that in the headline for this video. We'll get into that momentarily. Do I think it's indicative of their inability to create new stars? No, I don't. Because it's not as if Triple H put the briefcase on Theory. If Triple H was running WWE, say he took over and Vince was called out for being a sex pest 6 months ago and not 4 or 5 months ago. So let's say Triple H was running Money in the Bank. Would Theory be Mr. Money in the Bank? I honestly highly doubt it. The thing with Theory is this. I think Theory is great. Do I think he's damaged goods? Do I think he's done? No. I think he looks like the biggest fucking loser in the world right now. To even take him seriously as a world championship challenger, let alone a fucking mid-card title challenger coming off of Monday, I think is laughable. I don't think he's done, though. He's not a guy where he's lost every time it matters most. He's lost a lot of fucking meaningless matches on Raw and SmackDown. He won the briefcase. He's a former U.S. champion. He's not getting the Ryback treatment yet where he's losing on pay-per-view every month. Like, he's on the show enough to where he's maintained a presence on the show. He's still getting opportunities to shine in the ring. I mean, he had that great match with Rollins, not only this week, but specifically last week. I thought that was an excellent match. It felt like a burial of Theory to me. I know the idea is I hate when fucking Vince did this too, but like, let's wipe the slate clean with him and have him start with from the bottom and work his way up. The thing with Theory is this, and again, I'll probably address this in other questions that I'm going to be answering on this episode because I got a lot of questions about Theory. I don't think Theory was ready to become world champion now. Because you said the only defense as far as why he lost, because people have said, oh, he wasn't ready yet, so it's fine. I feel like I kind of agree with everyone. I've agreed with some of what people said. I've seen people say it's a good thing that what happened on Raw happened because he wasn't ready yet. And again, I agree and I disagree. I completely disagree. I think that was the right thing to do of what they did on Monday, but I agree that he's not ready yet. And you can make the case, oh, but so-and-so wasn't ready yet. He's not fucking John Cena. He's not Shawn Michaels. Theory is like a world champion right now. I'll tell you right now, the fact that he cashed in on mid-card title was ridiculous. It was stupid. It was dumb. It shouldn't have happened. That absolutely was egregiously terrible. He should not have cashed in on a fucking mid-card title. Would I have been happier if he won the title from Roman Reigns? Honestly, that probably would have been worse. If he beat Roman Reigns, let's say he cashed in at Crown Jewel, and he was the one to take the belt off of Roman Reigns, I think I'm not really sure what would have upset me more. Someone like RJ, for example, he probably would have been elated. I got to put my Markism for Theory aside here and just call a spade a spade. I feel like that would have been really dumb too. Theory wasn't going to and should not have beaten Roman Reigns for the championship. But here's my thing. I'm fine with him even cashing in and losing. I mean, you have to hear me out here. He won it 4 months ago. He has lost a majority of the matches he has had since winning the briefcase. When I say that I would have been fine with him cashing in and losing, there's a couple of caveats there. First of all, it's for a fucking world title, because he looks like an idiot cashing in for a mid-card title and the same night of an open challenge, which makes no fucking sense, and then losing. At least if he cashes in for a world title I love the mid-card titles have felt more important. They're not world championships. So if he cashes in for a world title, at least he went down swinging. I would also have waited another 4, 5, 6, 7 months. We just had that rumor a week or two ago, they might wait a full year to have Theory cash in. I thought that was a great idea for a number of reasons. One, they've never done that before. They have never had anyone wait an entire calendar year to cash in the briefcase. I think Rollins or Carmella or Edge, I forgot who exactly it was, but one of those individuals held the briefcase for like 9, 10 months. I think they all held it for a very long time. But, they all held it for like the longest period of time. It wasn't a year, though. So waiting a full year would have been great. And I've said this with RJ before. I think we talked about it on the show last week. The only problem that they ran into with that they probably would have run into with that, it surely sounds like, with all the gimmick pay-per-views being a thing of the past, which is not official yet. It's not official. But if they're getting rid of gimmick pay-per-views, I haven't been in favor of it in the past. But putting the Mania, the Money in the Bank ladder match back at WrestleMania, one for the men. Now that Mania is 2 nights, I'm okay with it. You can't do a women's ladder match and a men's ladder match in the same night at WrestleMania. That would have been fucking overkill. Having one on one night, the other on the other night makes a lot of sense to me. The only issue in having Theory wait a year was that Theory would have had to be Mr. Money in the Bank at the same time that we have a Mr. Money in the Bank crowned at WrestleMania. And then a Miss Money in the Bank as well. And I don't want the women to cash in after 24 hours again. So then you have 3 people. 2 I get. One for the women, one for the men. To have 3 people, it just gets fucking confusing. Oh, this guy has a year, this guy has another 2 months. Is it something they've never done before? Yeah, but it's also kind of silly. You can't have 3 people walking around with a fucking briefcase when the concept is as tired as it is. That is overbooked nonsense. So that's the only, if they don't do it at WrestleMania, there's even less of an excuse. But I'm assuming that's what they're doing at Mania this year, and they're bringing it back to WrestleMania. It's very cool. I'm in favor of it now. I hope that's what they do, especially coming off the Theory loss on Monday night. But listen, I would have had Theory whether it was July, even if it was fucking January, but specifically around the spring. You have Theory cash in, and he loses. Maybe he doesn't announce it in advance. He's a heel. I get it. But at least he goes down swinging. I mean, it's not like he got beaten 2 seconds on Monday, a la Baron Corbin via, to Jinder, which I'll get to momentarily as well, as far as the worst cash-in, where does it rank, whatever. At least he faces Roman Reigns, and it's, honestly, I would have done a spot. I think it would have been better had Roman Reigns, like, for example, maybe not this past weekend at Crown Jewel, you give him the briefcase for a lot longer than they do, but you have him cash in on Roman following a big match. Not during the match, like a fucking idiot, but like after the match is over, people think the show's over, he cashes in on Roman. And honestly, a lot of people would think, holy shit, Theory's probably winning the championship. And if he loses there, yeah, did he capitalize on a weakened Roman and he still lost? Does it make him look like a loser? Sure, but it was a world title, but Roman Reigns is on another level from everyone else. I love Rollins, but Rollins is not Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns going through an opponent, beating them, and then going through a fresh Theory and beating him too, doesn't make Theory look great, but it makes him look better than what we got on Monday night. And at least you can finally pay off that story of like he attempted to cash in at SummerSlam, he failed. He attempted to cash in at Clash of the Castle, he failed. 3rd time's the charm at whatever pay-per-view in early spring of next year, after Mania, whatever, and he loses. You pay off that story, he earns Roman's respect maybe, and then you start building him from the ground up. I think the way that they did it was what really bothered me. The execution of the cash-in itself, when they did it and how they did it, I thought was really fucking dumb. It makes the company look dumb. It makes him look dumb. The briefcase looks like a complete, absolute joke. It's as valuable as the fucking 24/7 title in the trash right now. It was not good. Theory not win, like him. He is. I think he is and can be a future world champion for them. Was he going to win that title with the briefcase? I've always said like maybe Cody beats Roman. It doesn't sound like that's going to be the case, unfortunately, but maybe Cody beats Roman and then he cashes in on Cody. But then we just had fucking 3 years of a heel world champion. Do we really want another one in theory so soon? It's like I wouldn't have even done that. But at least maybe Cody wins the belt and then Cody beats him. I don't know. I don't know. Just I don't want to say anything would have been better than what we got on Monday. You could always make Theory look worse than he did, but it was definitely dumb. And I've gone on a major rant about this, but to answer your question, no, I don't think it's indicative of their inability to create new stars, because we've seen with Triple H in the few months that he's been, head of creative in WWE, he's making more of an effort to create either new stars or rebuild people that were stars already in NXT, give new people an opportunity and stuff like that. There's a lot of fresh faces on both rosters that have a lot of promise and whatnot. Theory just was not... I think Triple H likes Theory, but he wasn't as high on him and as ready to push him as quickly as Vince was. So that's just one of those things where Theory kind of gets caught in the crosshairs of, Vince booking and then Triple H booking, and now he's left with nothing to do. I think Theory will be fine in the long run. He will rebound. I think he'll still be a star for them, and he should. If he gets cut and he's not a world champion in the next couple of years, then I think that's an absolute fucking waste, and we'll talk then. But I think they are able, at least under Triple H, they're definitely capable of creating new stars. They just choose not to. And I think Triple H definitely is going down that path. He just wasn't ready to make Theory a main event guy right now. I just don't know if I would have done it the way that he did on Monday. Nike Only from YouTube. I know Triple H is getting rid of gimmick pay-per-views, but should he keep Night of Champions and have it right before SummerSlam? No. I used to really like Night of Champions, Clash of Champions, whatever. But, it just got to a point where they had way too many non-title matches, and some titles weren't even defended. The last one they did was a disaster. You mentioned, if they get rid of gimmick pay-per-views, will they get rid of Clash of Champions? They already did. We haven't had a Clash of Champions since 2020. They didn't do it this year, and they didn't do it last year. So that tells me it's not coming back. Like people saying, they better get rid of TLC. Dude, they haven't done fucking TLC since 2020. They already did get rid of it. Where the fuck have you been? 1 year that they take off from it, okay, it may not be officially retired. If they don't do the show for 2 years, that tells me it's not coming back. And that was the case with TLC. TLC they haven't done in 2 years. Clash of Champions they also have not done in 2 years. That last one was not a good show. Specifically, Bayley was supposed to defend her championship, or something happened where someone was supposed to defend their title and they couldn't, or they didn't, or whatever. It was just stupid. The whole thing was dumb. The whole show concept got really tired by the end. It's not a pay-per-view selling point anymore. All the titles are on the line. We get fucking title matches almost every week. It doesn't even really matter at this point. So, no, I would not keep Night of Champions. I would keep it to what I've suggested before. The Big Four, an international show or two, the Saudi shows, and that's it. And King of the Ring, and that's about it. So maybe 5 to 7 shows a year, probably closer to 6 or 7. Maybe 8. But preferably between 6 and 7. No Night of Champions, it's pointless. No L from Facebook. Now that it's almost the end of the year, who would you say had the worst 2022 in WWE? And who has had the best 2022 in wrestling? I may have a different answer at the end of the year. I was really trying to think about it coming into the show. 3 people come to mind. As far as 3 people come to mind for the best in wrestling in 2022. As far as the worst in WWE this year, it's weird. A lot of people have had mostly good years. I can't think of anyone of importance, people getting called up and not really fucking doing anything. People getting fired, but a lot of people have been brought back. Not one name comes to mind other than, and I hate saying this because, I think he's in the ring. He's pretty abysmal, but I saw that great video that they posted of him reuniting with his family this past week. Omos, I think Vince expected coming into this year to be this big star, heavily pushed. Theory unfortunately had a very good start to the year and has fallen off, but he hasn't like had the worst 2022. He had a Mania match with fucking Pat McAfee, won the briefcase, won the U.S. title. I wouldn't put Theory in that conversation, except for recently. All year, I mean, Omos, he beat, I think, AJ Styles in the first Raw of the year. Either the first Raw of this year, the last Raw of last year, I don't remember. But he beat AJ Styles, and there was all these rumors, oh, they're going to push him. It's going to be an aggressive push, and they shouldn't have, but that was the rumor. And then he went on to do nothing. He had that feud with Lashley that he lost. He had his undefeated streak broken by Lashley. They had decent matches, but he lost whenever it mattered most to Bobby Lashley. And then from there, he was kind of off TV for a few months. They had nothing for him. The Braun feud was fine. The match with Braun was fine. But he just wasn't, I think for the year that they intended him to have, he fell so short of that. And rightfully so. The guy's just not that good. I feel bad because he seems like a really nice guy. In the ring, he's just awful. Omos probably has had, of like the bigger stars, literally and figuratively, in WWE this year, has probably had the worst year. As far as the best 2022, I mean, I think FTR have had a great year. Rollins has had an excellent year. Cody Rhodes was having a great first half of 2022. It probably would have gone to him had he not gotten hurt. The top three names that come to mind are MJF. And I don't know if MJF would be my wrestler of 2022 just because he lost to Punk back at Revolution. He lost to Double or Nothing. He was gone for 3 or 4 months. I mean, it's hard to say MJF when he lost a fair amount, and he's been good since he's come back. He's been the best part of Dynamite by far. I don't know if he would have it. I don't know if he's had the best 2022 though. The other two names I'd put in that category are from WWE. Bianca Belair, who has had fucking banger after banger after banger. I know Sheamus has had a great year too, and that's his catchphrase, but you know, she had a good showing in the Rumble. She was in there in the last like maybe 6 women or whatever. She won Elimination Chamber. I don't know if it was a clean sweep, but she won the whole thing. You know, she wins the Raw Women's Championship in a great match at WrestleMania from Becky Lynch. She had a great match with Asuka and Becky at Hell in a Cell. Another great match with Becky at SummerSlam. The 6 woman at Clash was fine. The Bayley matches were all great. The Extreme Rules match and the Last Woman Standing match, the ladder match, were all fantastic. And now she's going to be in War Games. So Bianca's had an amazing year. She really has been, I think, the biggest star WWE's had all year. She hasn't gotten hurt. Not to jinx it, but she hasn't gotten hurt. She's been having a great year. Next to her, Sami Zayn. I mean, Sami Zayn hasn't won like a world title or anything. He was Intercontinental Champion for 2 weeks. But everything Sami Zayn has done, everything he has touched has turned to gold. The Johnny Knoxville feud was great. They had an awesome feud. That really good match at WrestleMania. And then the Bloodline stuff started after that, and he's been the best part of the show ever since. So honestly, I feel like WWE Superstar of the Year, if it's not Bianca, it would be Sami Zayn. Which is weird, because it's not like he's main evented pay-per-views, and I think he wasn't a main event of Money in the Bank in the ladder match. But like overall, though, he hasn't contended for world titles, and he was Intercontinental Champion for 2 weeks. He hasn't had a lot of marquee matches. But as far as being the best part of the show all year, it would be Sami Zayn, and he still is to this day. Next question comes from Justin K. from Facebook. His question was, let's play fantasy booking. If you could build a cruiserweight division with 4 superstars spread across every promotion, who are your building blocks, and who would be your division's champion? I feel like coming off the failure that was WWE's cruiserweight division, I'm kind of cruiserweighted out right now as far as like, I just don't have much. I mean, if AEW did it, would be interesting, I guess, but I don't really have much of an interest in like another cruiserweight division. But if I had to choose from all different promotions, 4 names, I really had to think about it because, I don't know, I just feel like WWE and AEW just had a lot more high flyers at a different point, even maybe a year or two ago. But from AEW, I'm only picking 2 from AEW, 1 from WWE, and then 1 free agent / New Japan guy. Dante Martin, I feel like would be the guy that you kind of build up. He's fantastic. Ray Phoenix is amazing. So Ray Phoenix would be my second choice. Ricochet from WWE. I know you can kind of, he feels like he's above that at this point. Like he's a mid-card guy in WWE, former Intercontinental, U.S. champion, whatever, but they're not doing shit with them. So Ricochet in like a cruiserweight division would be cool. And Kushida from New Japan / free agent. Kushida is awesome. Obviously, he was like the king of that division over in New Japan. I was thinking like who from New Japan could I put in there? Dragon Lee was another name I saw that kind of came to mind. I'm thinking that would be awesome. Matt Seidel's on the older side, but you know, he would be cool to have in there. as far as old WWE cruiserweights from their own division, like I didn't mention any of those except for Kushida. He's a former cruiserweight champion in WWE. I'm trying to think, like, Roddy was a cruiserweight champion. He doesn't really interest me in that division personally. I don't even know. Cedric, maybe. Ibushi would be awesome, but I think he's like above that at this point. So I'm going to stick with the 4 that I said. Dante Martin, Rey Fenix, Ricochet, and Kushida would be my building blocks of a cruiserweight division in all companies right now. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine, and on YouTube at Real Honesty with John Ritland. Does great work, as I always say. Check him out. First question was, so Austin Theory have to have the title. He's got to have the title of worst cash-in ever, right? So that's the big question, right? That's the main question for this week's episode. That's what everyone's been wondering, not from me, but just in general. Is that the worst cash-in of all time? You're going to hear a lot of different theories, no pun intended. You're going to hear a lot of different opinions. Here is mine. Yes, it was. And you're going to sit there and tell me, no, the Sandow one was worse. No, the Corbin one was worse. No, the Strowman one was worse. You know what the biggest difference is, though? They were all for fucking world championships. They were all for world titles. Theory was dumb enough. Theory looks like an absolute imbecile coming off of Monday. I didn't even really realize this until RJ brought it up. Rollins was doing an open fucking challenge. If Theory came out and challenged Rollins to a title match, Rollins just not wanting to be made to look like a bitch probably would have accepted. He probably would have accepted it without even having to use the briefcase from Theory. He probably would have just accepted it, or you just challenge him next week or whatever. Cashing it in on a championship you've already held and failed to regain is fucking dumb. And then Rollins was also attacked beforehand, as was Theory, and the idea is people are going to say, oh, he got protected. He was attacked by Lashley. So was fucking Seth Rollins. He had an opportunity to put away Seth Rollins. He hit his finisher on him, and he still kicked out. He looks like an idiot. It was a mid-card title. The Corbin-Mahal one ranks up. That's probably the second worst cash-in of all time. The Sandow-Cena one would probably be third. Because I know Cena was like injured or whatever. He had a hurt something, like an injured arm or something, I think coming out of Hell in the Cell the night before. Sandow was a bum. He was never going to win the world title. Theory is a much bigger star. For Theory not to be able to beat Rollins, which is definitely doable. Theory has beaten bigger stars, like, as he's beaten Finn Balor. He's amassed a lot of victories in the last year, has Theory. And I think it's believable that he could beat Rollins. Sandow beating Cena was never going to happen, and it was a competitive match. I think it was longer than the one that we got from Theory and Rollins on Monday. He was an idiot too, Sandow was, for doing it when Cena was like hurt but not coming out of a match, which is what you were kind of supposed to do. The Sandow one, he was made to look really, really good in defeat. Theory just looks like an absolute idiot. The Corbin-Mahal one, he got distracted. He looked like an idiot. But again, the real kicker for me was that it was at least for a fucking world title. It was for a world championship. The mid-card one was not. The United States Championship one was not. That trumps everything to me. The fact that you cashed in on a mid-card title and lost will never be forgotten, or to me, I don't know about never forgiven, but it was pretty dumb. So to me, yes, the Theory cash-in has got to be the worst one of all time. Second question from John. What are your thoughts on the casting choices for the upcoming Iron Claw movie that A24 is funding? MJF should be a great addition. Yeah, I saw that. I've seen some of the pictures from the set. They went viral with Zac Efron having that Lord Farquaad haircut, which was pretty funny that people were saying that. I think it's cool. I think the fact, the Von Erichs are obviously one of the greatest wrestling families of all time. But I feel like with people like Alexis who don't really know wrestling history, the Dark Side of the Ring episode of them, as depressing as it was, really kind of shined new light on the Von Erichs. We have the Von Erichs now, the Sons, Ross and Marshall and MLW. They've kind of had this resurgence of, I don't want to say fame, but like notoriety, and more people know who they are, like the newer fans. I mean, I wasn't watching back in the day, but I knew about the Von Erichs. And I have a newfound appreciation for the family coming off that Dark Side of the Ring special from a few years ago. So I'm looking forward to the movie. MJF being in it is very cool. We've talked about it before. I even said a week or two ago, like, someone asked me, I think it was Billy, who do you think would be a great actor in wrestling right now? MJF and Bray Wyatt. And MJF, I think Bray already did a movie, and MJF's going to be in this. So I don't know how big his role is. But honestly, like I said on Twitter that yesterday or the day before, this is only the beginning. I think MJF should be and will be in more movies after this. If he can only play one character and it's him being a dick, then that might kind of pigeonhole him a little bit. But we've seen on TV, he can be sympathetic, he can be intense, he can be likable. Like, he can play a lot of different roles, and I think that's going to adapt well to a movie setting. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. What are your thoughts on the upcoming sequel to A Christmas Story? I know Christmas season doesn't technically start until after Thanksgiving. I mean, listen, you're speaking my language. That's what I always say. But I think I've softened up as they've gotten older to people starting to put up their decorations now. And seeing it, I haven't really heard a lot of Christmas music in the last week and a half. That kind of bothers me more. But seeing more decorations, if you want to have a full 2 months of Christmas celebration, like with Halloween starting in early September, I get it. So that doesn't bother me too much anymore. But as far as watching the movies and stuff, yeah. I mean, I know there's some Christmas-related things coming out in the next few weeks. Like, not now. It's already the 9th. Thanksgiving's in 2 weeks, I think. Waiting until at least after Thanksgiving is what I would do. But back to your original question. Yes, I did watch the trailer for the Christmas Story sequel. It's an HBO Max original. These people just can't fucking help themselves. And I'm not just talking about HBO and Warner or Disney or whatever. It's every fucking company. They just can't help themselves when it comes to these remakes and sequels. And listen, I know you, John. I didn't watch your review yet, but I haven't watched the movie myself yet. I know you did not like Hocus Pocus 2. I can make an exception for that because the original was great. Here's the thing, though. A Christmas Story is overrated as fuck. I'm not going to sit here and say it sucks, but I honestly put it in the same category as Avatar. I've seen it. It's overrated. I don't get why it's as beloved as it is. And the funny thing is that I'm not alone in feeling that way because I've seen the comments on those videos sharing the trailer for that new sequel to A Christmas Story, not Avatar, but Avatar 2, saying that it's overrated. The original is overrated. So I don't know if I'm going to watch it. Like you said, it takes place 40 years after the original. Same main actor, probably some of the same kids all grown up and whatever. It's an interesting concept. If it follows the same formula as the original, which people say that all the time, oh, it's the same thing as the original. I hope it doesn't because the original wasn't that great. So I hope it is something different. I probably won't watch it. There's a million other Christmas movies I like to watch around this time of year. New stuff. I know there's one on Apple TV, I was told, is coming out with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. It may not even be good, but I'm more enticed to see something new and with more actors that I enjoy than fucking Christmas Story Part 2. So, yeah, I did see the trailer. It looks fine. I probably won't watch it unless I hear it's absolutely amazing and it's worth checking out. At Ewagoon91, as we wind down here with the last 5 questions. His first question, did you expect Nikki Cross to win the 24/7 championship and ditch it like she did this past Monday night? I did and I didn't. I mean, if you asked me like a month ago, oh, who's going to win the championship and trash it, I would not have said Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross has been 24/7 champion many times before as Nikki Ash. But I would not have expected her to throw it in the trash. I was hoping someone would. And as soon as Nikki won it, and the match no one gave a fuck about and whatever, I don't give a shit about Dana Brooke. But as soon as the match was over, because I was so pissed they were even doing a 24/7 championship match on Raw, I turned to my side and I said to Alexis, I really fucking hope if they show her throwing it in the trash, this will be the best episode of Raw ever. You know, that notwithstanding the ending, I spoke too soon, I guess. But then, sure enough, they come back from commercial, they show her walking in the back, saying and doing nothing else but throwing the title in the trash, or at least attempting to, like I said, because she missed. That was it for me. That made the show. Theory stuff aside, even with the theory stuff, greatest episode of Raw ever, the 24/7 title is done and dead, which is great. So, no, I did not expect that if you asked me like a week or two ago. But like as soon as Nikki won it, I don't know if I would have expected it, but I was genuinely hoping that would be the outcome of the title, and that's exactly what happened, thankfully. Their second question, your thoughts on Mia Yim returning to the WWE to be the female backup against Rhea Ripley for the OC. This is actually something I did predict, and this was not a bold opinion. I'm sure other people said this, but Mia Yim, I know the reports, it was pretty clear-cut as of like last Friday per Fightful Select that she was coming back. But I was saying even before that, though, it became kind of official then. But there's been talk for weeks about Mia Yim coming back. She became a free agent after her Impact deal expired in early October. There might have been rumors about it even before then. And then they brought her back. Because I'm thinking, if they need a backup for the OC, and that was the story going into Crown Jewel, and they still lost because they didn't bring in Mia Yim in time for that show, I guess, which was dumb on AJ's part. I'm thinking if it's someone on the roster, Piper Niven makes sense because she has history with Rhea. They can repackage her, make her Piper Niven again. It would be cool. But if they're building it up as some sort of like big person, like, yeah, Beth made the most sense, but like Beth coming back without Edge is a little weird, and her being aligned with the OC is strange. So I wouldn't have necessarily done that. And not only that, but Beth's husband, Edge, made life miserable for AJ earlier this year, an absolute living hell during the Judgment Day stuff. So, again, Edge coming back to help the OC alongside Beth and whatever would have been a weird pairing. Mia was perfect. Mia has no history with the OC at all. Maybe they can explain it somehow. It's not like she's from New Japan or whatever. I was thinking of like women they can bring in that would make sense to fill that spot. Chelsea Green would have been like fucking terrible. She's not awful, but I mean, she's still an Impact anyway, I think, as of right now. That would have been silly. Anyone else wouldn't have made as much sense. Mia doesn't make like the most sense, but she makes more sense than anyone else. She fits that badass personality that they're looking for to counteract Rhea Ripley. And the funny thing is, I saw people saying on Twitter, oh, her and Rhea have so much history. Oh, they've had some bangers in NXT is what I saw one tweet say. I would love you to point me to said bangers, because if you're talking about their individual matches, then sure. If you're talking about the matches they've had together, again, point me in the direction where Rhea and Mia had matches in NXT. The answer is they never did. I'm thinking to myself while watching the segment, have these two even ever interacted before? And they have. They were supposed to be in the same War Games team 3 years ago, but they were never rivals, and they never even had a match. Looking at the Pro Fight DB database or whatever from Rhea Ripley's matches, she and Mia, they had maybe one singles match that was untelevised. So unless you live in fucking Pensacola, California, Florida, unless you're attending the Coconut Loop shows, you've probably never seen a Rhea Ripley-Mia Yim match. So people saying, oh, they have so much great chemistry. I mean, they probably will, but to go off as if they had these classic trilogy of matches in NXT is laughable, considering they never had a singles fucking match against each other. A single fucking match one-on-one against each other in NXT at all on TV. But anyway, I like the fit. Glad Mia's back. She never got an actual run on the main roster. Again, neither did Chelsea Green, but I like Mia a lot more. I just think she's better. The crowd was quiet, but they were dead all night on Monday. And her being aligned with a faction that people like is a good start for her back in the Raw roster. So, very happy to see Mia Yim back. Hopefully she gets another real shot in the Raw Women's Division and is not lost in the shuffle as she was before she left and got fired. Let's see. His third question here, thoughts on Austin Theory cashing in for the United States Championship. Talked about it at great length earlier, but I thought it was dumb. At noob_n_code TV, your thoughts on Nick Aldis getting suspended from the NWA. I believe it's controversial, but the NWA style, quote-unquote, is borderline dumb. Not to mention Billy Corgan definitely has no idea how to book in Power 2, but where will Aldis go post-NWA, AEW, or WWE? The Aldis departure was surprising. I know not everything was rosy and peachy over there, because all the comments that Corgan and I don't know if Murdoch feels that way too, or if I don't know if he feels that way too, or if he's just towing the company line, I'm not sure. But him also saying that there's not enough female talent to do an Empower 2 was a fucking joke. It's a joke. I mean, there's a lot of the women that they used in that first show are still free. And they can have working relationships with Impact. AEW, I know they weren't happy with Tony Khan wasn't happy with Billy Corgan or whatever, and Tony Khan complained publicly. That was not good. And them allowing Layla Hirsch to be on that show made for the best match on that entire show, Layla Hirsch and Camille. But anyway, they can absolutely do a second Empower show, especially with a lot of the Ring of Honor women now free. Trish Adora, Queen Aminata, Max the Impaler, she's in NWA right now. A lot of those women are free. They were not signed to AEW, and they can use them as well. So I don't really buy the excuse, they can't wrestle the NWA style. They're not fit enough for television. Do you watch their fucking do you watch your own show, dude? I mean, I watch Power every single week. I watch NWA USA every single week. They do have a lot of good women talent there. But to say that these people don't fit the NWA style is laughable. Half of their probably 3/4 of their roster are beaten down 40-year-olds that have no business being on TV. And they're not on TV. They're on a fucking Fight TV, which doesn't count. The product is not good. The Corgan comments only have them dig a deeper hole for themselves as far as looking like a dumbass. And letting all this go over something as petty, just as, all this is in his right to want to leave. But, just mistreating Mickie James after what happened with her in WWE. Can we just be nice to Mickie James? Unless she's this like raging bitch that we just don't know about. These seem like a very small thing for Billy Corgan. I mean, it's not that much effort to just listen to her and have her booking power too. Because the first one financially, was it a success? I don't know. But it was a much bigger success as far as buzz-wise than it was NWA 73, 74, any other show they do throughout the year. That was the most positive buzz I've seen NWA have in years, was that Empower show last year. And they haven't done a second one for the dumb reasons they mentioned in various interviews. So the Aldis departure was surprising. I hope he can go on to bigger and better things in another company. Where does he go? You mentioned AEW, WWE. I'm thinking Impact. You know, I know when I spoke to Aldis 3 years ago, he mentioned that he had an in with AEW, and they actually offered him a deal to come on in. He didn't want to leave NWA at that point. He's been a very crucial part of the company behind the scenes, was Aldis. He didn't want to leave, didn't want to ditch the NWA after all they did for him, and he's done for them, blah, blah, blah. And he stayed in the NWA. So he didn't go to AEW, but I think his big contact there was Cody. I know Cody's high on all this. They had those matches back in 2018 that were great. I would love to see them run it back in WWE. I don't think that's possible. I don't know if Tony Khan would have much interest in signing all this at this point. That was back when AEW first started. They have such a loaded roster at this point. I don't even know what they would do with all this if they were to bring him in. I would rather see him get a shot in WWE. He's young enough, people thinking, oh, he's old, past his prime. The guy's fucking 36. They signed LA Knight when he was 38 or whatever. He just turned 40. And he's one of the better parts of SmackDown right now, and he deserves a shot too. And all this is 4 years younger. So this whole, oh, he's too old bullshit is just stupid. It's dumb. I think all this is, I've always been one of his biggest fans. I think the guy is good enough to do well on a WWE stage. It's more a matter of whether they would hire him. I know the rumor for a long time was that Triple H didn't like him. I think he's kind of, implied that in interviews and whatever. There was someone that had influence in that company that did not want to bring him in. I think that was Triple H. I don't know why that would be. I don't know what interaction they ever had. Maybe Bruce Pritchard. He still works there. I don't know. But listen, if Triple H wanted to bring him in, give him a shot, I don't see why not. Nick Aldis is great, and I hope they do bring him in because I feel like he fits that WWE style to a T. It's honestly long overdue, in my opinion. And final question from Bill Meister, 88. With a lot of the previous superstars returning to WWE, who do you think is most likely not in Triple H's plans and most likely to be cut? It is interesting. We haven't really seen many cuts yet in WWE. Not a lot of people, I don't know if anyone is left on their own, saying, hey, I'm not happy here, I'm leaving. Triple H took over a few months ago. It's bound to happen. There will be people like that who ask for their release. Triple H probably will not give it to them. I mean, it's like the Vince McMahon stuff all over again. We're seeing it right now with Tony Khan. I understand to a certain extent, but if you have nothing for a certain person, then you just let them go. If you have no plans, then let them go. We'll see if Triple H is any different in that respect. Or if he attempts to make it up to them by actually using them, like Ali. Ali wanted to leave at one point, but now they're using him on TV. And I don't know if he wants to leave now because he's in a regular role on Raw, so I don't know if he's complaining behind the scenes. But as far as people that may get cut or just flat out released, we've seen a few people get fired, like Nigel McGuinness and Jimmy Smith. They weren't wrestlers, but they were people that did not fit into Triple H's plans. A few NXT people last week. Again, those are like developmental people. It's not that big of a deal. We're talking like main roster people. Looking through the roster, 3 people came to mind. One being Lacey Evans. I don't know if Lacey Evans is a Triple H girl. I know she went up through NXT. She was there for a little while. She was there for a few years. The interesting thing is that Triple H never did anything of note with Lacey Evans on NXT. She was never built up. And that doesn't mean everything. I mean, Mandy Rose was never really built up either. She just wasn't really developed yet. And she got called up to the main roster pretty immediately. But Lacey was there for a few years, and they never really did much with her. She got called up to the main roster. They did far more with her than NXT ever did. I think Lacey's good. I like Lacey, but, they built her up with this whole face and then heel turn earlier this year. Triple H takes over, and he has no fucking plans for her. She has done nothing. She has made maybe 2 televised appearances in the last 3 or 4 months. So I don't know if they would let go of her or if she would just leave. I mean, she ain't going to maybe she would go to Impact, I guess. Not that anyone would really give a shit, but I could see Lacey doing her gimmick in like the NWA, and maybe it gets over there in front of 10 people, who knows. But Now, Lacey Evans, I could see either getting cut or leaving at some point if she wants to, if she's just not really happy there anymore. Reggie, we have not seen in months. I don't know if Reggie got hurt, and Reggie has not been on Raw like all year, but he was on Main Event for a good stretch of time. He did a few matches on Main Event under Triple H, but he just hasn't been on there in a while, so I know Triple H has no real plans of utilizing him on the Raw roster or SmackDown. He's a great acrobat and whatever. He seems like a nice guy. But he's not a guy that Triple H is going to push. He was just brought up as part of comedy. Again, another guy that Triple H never used in NXT before Vince brought him up to the main roster. So I could see Reggie being let go. And I would have said Omos because he was clearly not a Triple H guy. He has done just really nothing under Triple H. But at the same time, they built him up for Braun Strowman. He lost. And that was that. And you could still let him go. But then I saw the video of him reuniting with his family, and they're using him as kind of like the spokesperson right now for the new WWE African Superstar search. So they're probably not going to want to let him go if that's what they're using him for right now. Do I see much value in Omos as an in-ring performer long-term? No. But as far as media stuff, I guess it could work in that respect, so they might not let him go. So instead of saying Omos, I'll say Commander Aziz. He reportedly got moved back to NXT with Apollo Crews when Apollo went back earlier this year, because Commander Aziz, the former Babatunde, Dabba-Kato, whatever the fuck you want to call him, was with Apollo in the main roster. Apollo got moved to NXT. Aziz internally was on the NXT roster, probably still is, and we haven't seen him on the TV show at all. I thought he was going to be paired with Cora Jade. I thought they were waiting for the right time to do that. I don't think Cora Jade needs him, though. I don't think Cora Jade needs a heavy. And if she does, it doesn't really need to be fucking Commander Aziz. So I don't know what his plans are as far as what their plans for him are. He's another guy that's been in the company for such a long time down in developmental that I don't know if they have any want to put him back on the main roster. Like, he was there for a while, didn't do much. He's not great. He's a big dude. He's not terrible. But, like, he's one of those guys that really hasn't progressed all that much, and he's not a guy I could see being a star on his own. So they'll probably just let go of him at some point, especially since we haven't seen him on TV in months. That probably spells the end of his time in WWE, unless they can repackage him and do something else. But I think they've gotten their use out of him, out of Commander Aziz by this point, considering we have not seen him on TV in quite a while. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode, 467 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, November 9, 2022. Thank you guys for sending in all the great questions. We had a plethora of awesome questions this week across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So thank you guys, as always, for those. I hope to answer, just as many next week. And if not, a little more, a little less. As long as there's a decent amount of questions, I'll continue doing it. And the show does not exist and does not continue on without you guys. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. On that note, if you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.